Okay, so the first question is for mutual funds, do I have to file taxes in US and India every year? Jaideep?
Yes. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, so yes, for India and US, if you invest and if you have any income, basically, then you need to file. There is a threshold exemption in India. Uh, if basically a certain threshold, right now it is rupees 5 lakhs. If you don't have any taxes, right now the tax limit for filing for NRIs is 250,000 or rupees 2,50,000 for India. And for US, if you have passive income more than $600, you have to file your tax return and pay any taxes if needed.
But one more note: the compliance is necessary, even
So
if you don't pay your for
the
mutual funds.
situation is such that if for mutual funds, if you want to elect anything, or if you want, even if you don't elect anything, if you cross the thresholds for FATCA and FBAR requirements, then you mandatorily need to file those forms at least, if even if you don't need to file your tax returns. So there are procedures to get that done.
Got it. Are there any limitations or reporting requirements for investments in India that US residents need to be aware of? I think we have covered this in the course of the presentation. Yeah. Is there any website which can help me in filing tax for India and US without charging much and also get help on my investments in India? So basically for tax filing, there are different websites in US. There is TurboTax, there is ClearTax in India. For tax reporting, like basically whatever you need to file taxes, a lot of investment platforms, including ours, provide that. So if you have invested through us, we do provide all the calculations and the reporting necessary for this mutual funds filing. If an OCI US citizen trades in Indian stock market, how are the gains and losses taxed in the US? Yeah. Jaideep?
I think we discussed that, right? When we covered the capital gains for the stocks.
Yeah.
Is that the question, right?
Yeah. Same question.
Long-term indexation is not allowed for the US tax purposes. I think that is what we covered.
Yeah, I think we can basically we'll circulate a recording of this webinar after this, like after the event. So you can also refer to the stock section for that. What if I invest as an NRI in India and then convert to resident Indian later? Do I need to sell my Indian assets or can I transfer into my resident Indian account?
What we are covering here is the US tax side of investments, Indian investments and Indian regulations, basically, specifically FEMA. It is too much out of the scope of this webinar, I guess, and it is very complex to answer here because every situation has a unique outcome. So please consult a proper chartered accountant or an attorney in India to comply with your Indian tax regulation.
Yeah. Okay. This is Nirmal. Now I understand it's a very specific scenario, but from the platform perspective, right? What kind of services do I expect from you guys, right? For such scenarios. So it's related to that as well.
So yeah, so there are, from a platform perspective, there are like KYC, etc., which needs to be done again for mutual funds. So for example, whether you are moving as a resident Indian to an NRI or moving back from an NRI to a resident Indian status, your KYC needs to be updated and your PAN needs to be updated. And we help with both of these services. The AUM transfer process, like we also plan to incorporate that, but at least right now it's not completely digital. There is some physical intervention there. We do provide that, but there will be a couple of forms that will be required to be filled for you to transfer your AUM completely to your like resident Indian status.
Yeah.
Okay.
But as far as we know, you may not need to sell your assets. I think all you need to do is put in the right reporting that you have changed your status, and that should be good.
So the
Okay.
so the physical forms that we provide will help you transfer the AUM without selling it. But unfortunately, the process is physical right now. We are figuring out a digital solution for that.
Okay. All right. Thanks.
Does getting a lower or nil TDS certificate for NRI help with taxes while selling the real estate and repatriation of that money received through the sale? Yeah.
Again, this is an India side question, but getting a lower or nil TDS certificate would not change what your tax liability will be in the US. So even if you have lower tax liability in the US, chances are if you are a US resident, there will be a higher tax liability in the US. And whatever tax you are required to pay in India, that will be allowed as a tax credit, especially for real estate.
And just be careful that do not delay paying these taxes in India, because there is a timing issue when you do a credit, which again is another tax credit issue, which you have to be very careful of. So, if somebody is thinking that lower rate and I'm going to pay at the end of the year, sometimes doesn't work to the favor when you're doing the US tax return.
Got it. Next question, what minimum level of investment or assets would make sense to use the platform effectively given all complexity and fees? So we believe that currently the offering that we have, which is onshore or like, Indian mutual fund, they provide a better way to invest in India compared to investing in US based ETFs that are tracking India, primarily because of the higher cost that is involved in tracking the dollar as well as maintaining the hedge against Indian assets. In terms of minimum level of investment, you could start as minimum as $1,000, but I think a higher amount, as good as $5,000 or even $10,000, should safely, accommodate such complexity. However, I feel the complexity that we are solving should make it any easy for any investor of any size to get started.